Hello, and welcome to our bi-weekly dev stream. My name is Matt, and we're going to be talking about. Well, we've done these for a long time. This is the 19th dev stream, so we've done these for a little while, but a lot of people are new. So we're just going to kind of introduce what we do, and basically we talk about what's been going on here at Clapfoot over the week. We talk about community highlights. We talk about new features, and at the end of every stream, we always do a Q&A. And so that's pretty much what we do. Every 2 weeks, we do these streams. And usually it's the three of us.
Yes.
My name is Matt. I am I'm the level designer. I do effects. I do kind of like a lot of really random tasks at Clapfoot. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm HB. I do all the animations and rigging. I deal with a lot of UI. Talk a lot with you guys as well.
And my name's Mark. I'm one of the leads on the project.
Yeah.
And I also do some of the programming on the project as well.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a tumultuous, in a good way.
Did anything happen in the last 2 weeks? I don't know.
It's been pretty quiet. I don't know. It's been
It's been really crazy in like so many ways, and we just have so much that we want to talk about. Please stop me if I
start rambling too much.
If I ramble on, because there's just like a million thoughts that are going through like my mind. I know there's a million thoughts going through like your mind just because of all the stuff that's happened over this last week. But the first thing that we want to do is we want to say thanks to you guys for basically everyone who has been helping out with the launch of Foxhole.
It's been insane.
Both the people that have joined us as new players, new people in the community, and also the pre-alpha community.
Yeah, they deserve a special thank you for all the help.
For sure, exactly. So we want to do a special kind of like shout out to the pre-alpha community, because really they trusted us, they trusted the project, and they stayed with us for so long. Even when things weren't necessarily certain. Like, I think before we launched, there were a lot of people that were, there was a certain level of...
They had their misgivings, and they didn't know if we were gonna like fulfill what they were expecting, I guess, right?
That's what I think, and I think that it basically wasn't certain what was gonna happen at the launch, and there wasn't so many people playing the game during the pre-alpha, and quite frankly, like even all the way back from last Wednesday, the day before launch, we didn't really have that many people actually playing the game on that day. So there was a lot like doubt. Hey, is the game gonna like take off? Is it gonna be dead? Is it gonna be But what was really amazing is that from what we've heard from so many of you guys was like this level of like confidence. Like I think I heard from so many of you like, hey, like once the game goes into early access, there's gonna be so many more players, right? And like you guys said it with full confidence, and you trusted, you trusted that things would work out. And not only did you trust it, but you guys went and like bought the day, you bought the game
at the day that it was launched.
On the day that it launched, in the first couple of hours, which were super crucial. Like I talked about this in the last stream, that when you launch a game on stream, you need people to be playing it in the first couple of hours, or it's really tough to take off from there. And you guys were you jumped in right away, even when there was not that many players, and you started to play the game, and that helped us in reaching the visibility on Steam that we needed for the game to truly take off.
Absolutely.
And like, just thank you for trusting us, thank you for supporting the game.
Thank you for helping the new players as well, because that was something that we saw that was fantastic. Every time that somebody would have a doubt, and maybe we're just only a few of us, for the new guys that they don't know maybe a little bit about Clapfoot, it's only 8 developers, right? So we don't have enough men even to try to help everybody that comes with a doubt. So having all the people that already played the game for so long, creating guides and making sure that everything was running smooth, and helping the new players that we understand the game is complicated in the beginning. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And one of the comments that I keep hearing is like how friendly the community is. And I think that's just the result of all the hard work that you guys have put into the community, right? So anyways, thanks. And yeah, just want to say thank you like so much, but we gotta move on. to talking about a couple of things. I think that there was one kind of cool story I want to talk about, which I think is neat because it's probably gonna be
from the launch.
Yeah, so this like launch was, you guys didn't know about this, but the game was close to not launching, and it's not even a joke. Like,
and it got us by surprise, to be perfectly honest.
So it was really funny. It's just a funny story. I mean, it's funny now in retrospect, but the day before launch, we basically had to go through a process to get our game onto Steam, right?
Yes.
And there were some problems that we didn't anticipate, and we thought that we would be in the clear basically like a day before, even the day before launch, right? And what ended up happening was there was a problem at last minute, and because there's a lot of games launching on Steam right now, things happen a lot slower than we thought they would happen. And literally the night before launch, a few hours before the end of the day, like, we had no game to launch. Like,
I wasn't here for this.
Yeah,
you weren't here for this, Matt, but if you were here, you would know how stressed out that the rest of the team was.
It was insane.
And I was trying to hide it from you guys.
No, we were not hiding at all.
I was trying to be like, guys, it's gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna work this out. And basically, it fully came down to whether or not something would happen before the final like 2 hours of the day was kind of finished. If we didn't hear a response back, it would have been over, and that would have been terrible because our press release was scheduled to launch the next day.
Oh, everything was in
All
line,
our press
right?
was in line, and if we had missed that date, it would have been like a disaster. And I was driving home that day after work, and I still haven't gotten
any response.
Basically, the response that we needed until like 8:30 at night here, and I finally got the response, and it was just like. It was just the craziest, like, man.
instantly we got message like, hey guys, everything is alright. The game is gonna be released.
I was on vacation at home, and I remember getting an email. It's like, oh, we passed. It was good.
Yeah.
And they were like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah. So it just got through, and then we came in the next morning, and because we were dealing with all that problems the last day, we weren't really in like the settled state that we kind of had to be in, but luckily, again, people from the community were like super helpful. Anyways, yeah, that was a story. I just wanted to talk about it just because, like,
it was really nerve-wracking.
It was really nerve-wracking, and this all could have like fallen apart.
But despite of all that, despite of everything that happened, and because of the history, because I was playing, having you guys play the game for a year already, and having all the help, and you guys buying the game on the first day and helping us stay on the top chart for so long, we can confidently say that was a pretty big success. The launch was very successful.
It kind of blew up a little
more than we expected. Yeah.
Well, I think I would say like it blew up roughly 3 times more than like the best case that we thought it could be, right?
Yeah.
So it was pretty crazy. But for those of you that are kind of new, if you're watching this stream for the first time, if you kind of like joined the community for the first time, I guess just want to talk a little bit about how we do things and kind of like where the project is going to be heading. So we basically had a pre-alpha period for a whole year, right? So we actually launched the pre-alpha last summer, actually, just about a year ago.
Yeah.
And we've slowly built a community around that, and now it's a year later. And at some point, we were, really figuring out how we were gonna launch the game. It's gonna be free, it's gonna be paid. And in the end, we thought that like paid was the best, even though there was a huge risk. But we thought that the best version of Foxhole would exist if the game is paid. And so far it's working out quite well. And the reason is that we really want to, like, the way that we want to make this game is to totally focus on the gameplay and just try to make the game the best it can be without any other like distractions, without any kind of weird like external factors. And that's why we think that paid is the best. And on top of that, you'll never see like microtransactions in this game. So something that we've been talking about for months and months.
And
right?
something that people actually suggested as being like the only way to go. To be honest, we had actually people saying that this is the way to go, but we are never gonna do it.
Yeah, we're never gonna do it on Foxhole. So if you bought the game, you'll get all the content for free. And we're gonna be working on this game for like a while, right? And we're gonna be doing updates regularly. We're still figuring out the exact schedule, but the rough idea is that every couple of weeks we're gonna do like an update.
Yes.
And we're gonna be adding new content to the game, roughly like every 2 updates, right?
Yeah.
Or so. It's gonna be slightly different from the pre-alpha, like we talked about on the last stream, because we want to have time now and early access to fix more bugs, work on the polish, the kind of stuff that we didn't care that much necessarily about during
but
the
now
pre-alpha.
it is the time. So now we're instead of being like just focus on content, not just focus because we never did that, but we're gonna have like more individualized updates in a way that like one is a little bit more focused on bug fixes and polish, and the other one is gonna be a little bit more focused on content.
Yep, that's right. And
More than that as well, like if you guys are new, maybe you don't know, but we always kept having dev blogs and community highlights. We're gonna continue to do those. We're gonna go back. We had a little time in there because of launch. Things got a little bit hectic, so we didn't have community highlights for the last 2 dev streams. We still continue to appreciate everything that you guys do, and we actually look at everything. We love all the content that is created, but we'll go back to doing that.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue doing the dev streams every 2 weeks as well.
So going forward, just like we've always have, just to kind of recap everything, there will be regular updates to the game.
Yes.
There will be regular content added to the game. There will be regular dev blogs that describe things that are coming and events, I suppose.
Yeah.
And there will be regular community highlights. Did I say that already?
Yes.
I don't know if anyway, whatever. And
the
there will be
streams.
regular dev streams every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So like expect a lot from us because that's just the way we've done. Like this is just what we've done.
Basically,
at this point, and we want to give back to you guys. So.
Yeah. Basically, what we're saying is just because it was a successful launch, that means that now it's a good moment for us to go back, continue doing what made it successful. So we don't want to rock the boat or anyway.
Yeah, like we're not gonna. I mean, outside of a couple of small things that's needed to support a larger community, the plan does not change, right? Yeah. Our goal still is to keep working on this game and to keep on heading towards the goal of having a sandbox war game where there's lots of players all trying to work together, and none of that's going to change, right?
Yeah.
I think if there is one sort of like a speed bump like what we're talking about, is because the launch has been so hectic, getting back to the updates is going to be slightly slower than we had thought, right? So originally we had thought by now we would have one of our content updates out, right? But we basically spent the whole last week just supporting all new players. So for the pre-alpha players, just remember it's going to slow down a bit, but our goal is to get back to the normal schedule, right? And anyways, I guess I
think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it for right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
So we're going to move on to. I think that covers sort of just like the preamble, just us kind of like talking about the launch of the game. So we're going to move on to this section we call community highlights, which used to be really, really big, but now we'll cover a couple of cool things that happened in the community over the last couple of weeks.
Can I explain a little bit just for the people that don't know?
And this is HB's kind of like domain, so
so for the people that don't know what community highlights is, we see people doing either stories or videos or art all about Foxhole, and we really appreciate that. And this is the way that we found to thank you guys for that. So what I do is basically I scour our Discord and our Steam forums, and I see what you guys created. I pick up some of the best ones and I put a blog post. Used to happen every 2 weeks. Again, with the launch, it got like pushed back a little bit more, but I'm gonna go back to doing that as well. But every dev stream now, what we do is we pick 3 or 4 of those contributions, and we just highlight the highlights. And we talk a little bit about them. So keep them coming. I will go back to looking into those.
Cool. I guess we want to walk through a few of these.
Yeah.
I guess
we did have some pretty cool ones.
I'm just going to jump straight to it because it's a lot easier that way. But
yeah. Oh, this first one is really cool. So this is Foxhole Rocks, which is totally fan-made. It's a community made. We didn't have a hand on this, but it's a community portal which has Steam integration. You can log in and have your profiles updated, and talks about the game, and people can get together and see what's going on.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about the site is that there's a Steam integration.
Yeah,
right?
so
you
fantastic.
can log in with your Steam account. It's a super polished site.
That was the thing that blew my mind. Was when I first saw it, I was like, "What is this? Like, like is this some new wiki?" I didn't even know what it was.
Especially how fast it was put together.
Yeah.
And the amount like polished. And Whiskey Sims, the user who made this site. You know, this is amazing. I can't believe you put this together in a matter of like a few days, right? So hopefully you guys can check out this site at some point. The other thing was this guide here was one of the. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, it does BK Ulrich. I never know how to actually pronounce the name. He made a advanced architectures guide, which is pretty much how to build your base. We love to see in those guides of any kind of like tactics. This one is particularly interesting because he remade all the models. I imagine that is on SketchUp. It looks like it. It's very simple. It's very visual, so you can understand very clearly what he's talking about. And what he's talking about in this guide is how to build your base, how to build your defenses, and all the concepts behind it. It's definitely worth a shot for you guys, for people that are new, that see all these arrangements in the real world. And if you scroll down like just a little bit up, that one. So you see this arrangement in the real world, in the game, and you think, well, what is the logic behind what is being done there? And then there's an explanation. Why do you use it? Why do you put barbed wires in front a wall or not, and things like that. So it's really nice. It's on our Steam forums.
The Steam Community Hub.
Steam Community Hub.
Yeah, the Steam Community Hub.
It's a guide, right?
Yeah, it's a guide. Yeah, sorry.
And I think it's just really useful for people who want to like make the most out of building.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that's really cool about this whole section of Steam now is that we've been waiting for a year to use this.
Oh yes, because it was a demo, so we didn't have guides.
So before the pre-alpha, users weren't allowed to come in here and make these guides, and finally now that it's out of the pre-alpha, they can actually go in there and do it. And there's a lot of guides there.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna highlight this one and like another one, but go check out the guide section.
They're
on the community hub.
Incredible.
There's a lot of guides. So I'm gonna go to the next one, Matt, if you wanna.
Sure, yeah.
I know you saw this one and you want to like talk about it a bit.
So right? I mean, I've already told him this, but this guide is by African Dave, and it's a.
Oh, he was a pre-alpha.
Yeah,
cool.
And it's a compilation of all of the lore as much as has been compiled by the community, and sort of trying to make sense of it in the different sections. And I think it is by far the most comprehensive and accurate that I've seen. So I wanted to just kind of shout it out, because I think if you want to know a little bit about what's going on in Foxhole, this is probably a growing. Actually, it has changed over the weekend. I looked at it. It's been updated, so it's going to be a growing and probably useful thing if you're interested in lore. Because for everybody who's new, the story of Foxhole is not necessarily something that's just going to be like handed out. You're going to have to probably find it. So
yeah, and it is sometimes kind of hard to piece it together because it's spread around the world.
Yeah.
So
and the one thing that I don't know. Okay, cool. There was one thing that was cool is that there's definitely like a timeline of of what happened in the world.
We know it.
Of Foxhole, and we set that timeline out. I think it was around last fall, Matt, when we kind of went back and we got rid of all the old stuff and we start from scratch. And there's definitely, the first thing that we did was have a timeline. And one thing that was cool about this post is that this is the closest that anyone has gotten
what
so
we
far.
decided.
We were so surprised that wow, they actually all the pieces are together, and it's not 100%, but it's pretty
close.
Darn close, right, to what the timeline is. And I just thought that was really cool. Right.
Yeah. So I really wanted to shout. I already told him that I thought it was really I was really impressed with it, but I just wanted to kind of give it a bit of a shout out. So we're gonna move on to the next part of the dev stream, which
suggestions
is going to be player suggestions.
So we kind of thought we didn't have time for it, but we wanted to pick just two so that because there's something we always skip, and I want to get into the habit of not skipping it, right? So if you want to take this one.
Oh, yeah, sure. This one is by Lurkas. You want to read it off?
Sure. I mean, basically, what it kind of... I'm just going to kind of read the last part. It'd be interesting to see areas that both sides fight over, so they could be the first to get the tech from these. So I think, like, in a nutshell, important points of the map that have useful tech that can only be found in a location in the world that is more neutral as opposed to kind of like sided, and it's I think like these very important spots that will be that as opposed to just towns that are fought over, important spots that have some resource or something that is useful. I
not just important, but also unique.
Unique as well, and I think that's the sort of the root of this suggestion is like these spots that can be fought over for something. If you guys want to weigh in on that, I think it's a really cool idea.
We just saw some people that already know that, or some people didn't. Way back when the game was even before the game was launched on Steam, we actually had a few internal builds in which we had more centralized spots in which you could gather resources, and those created some situations that we were not cool with.
Actually, in one of our earliest tests when we were just playing in the office, we had many different types of resources like wood and cloth, and metal and all that stuff. And metal was required to make guns.
Yeah.
so
they were a huge, they were a huge like point of contention, right? And it was complicated to deal with that. But what I like about this suggestion that is different from what we did at that point is that they would be like, maybe there are like only one node for that resource, but the whole game already exists around it. So it's not like you have to use it to play the game.
It's not like a requirement.
Exactly, which
it's
was
like a bonus.
Which was the problem before. But having that bonus now, it could be as varied as it can be. Maybe one of the resources is as a giant weapon, or the other one is like an airfield or something like that, or they're literally not just resources, but like places that you can do some interesting thing, and that could be really interesting to have in the game, especially if they're unique, but there's a number of them around the map that people can fight for them in different ways, and they give like small advantages and things like that.
Yeah, and I think the cool part about the theming around this is that it fits into the world because like there's this long like history in the world that we like to present in a visual way, and I think having these like husks of these old pieces of technology, these old weapons, that's always been something that has been a part of the lore, and I think that's just really cool. I know that like Adam has been kind of like dying to make like a plain husk, which is kind of the first thing that I thought of when I saw this. And just one thing I want to mention, if you're new to the stream, is that when we talk about these suggestions, it's not something like when we talk about it, it's just sort of like our candid thoughts on it. It's not necessarily something that we're planning to do, or it's not even kind of like the leading thought necessarily on the subject. It's just sort of something cool that we want to talk about, right?
Or at least that it might be interesting to see in the game, even if we don't put it in the game. Like it's an
interesting thought.
It's a interesting thought on the game.
So that was really cool.
But sometimes suggestions do come into the game, so keep them coming. By the way, they sometimes they do show up.
So do you want to break this down, HB?
This is the bomb squad suit. Okay, so the idea of this one is to have actually different types of vestments, right? In which you can use them in different ways, and they allow you to do different things, right? And this, I think the one that is mentioned right now is the bomb squad suit, which allows you to have protection from explosives, but you are over encumbered, and also provides you with the power to dismantle mines, which ties in with. By the way, we used to have mines, like land mines, in our game, and they were very complicated to deal with. And this kind of
problems, right?
Yeah, so this kind of works with that problem to like how to fix the problem, in conjunction to being an interesting suggestion. Of its own, that like each individual outfit or equipment that you have would also have like give you some abilities and taking something away, which kind of fits with what we want to do, right?
Yeah, it kind of touches upon the outfit system that we talked about during the pre-alpha and that we still have in the works. The thing that I like about this the most is that it gives a new role in the game, right? Because that's one of the things that we were talking about on the last stream is how there's too many combat roles in the game right now, and not enough. There's not like other things to do, and that's kind of what we consider a little bit of like a weak point in the game towards the goals that we had. Because at the beginning, it was very clear that we want this game to be about much more than just the combat, right?
Yes.
We want all these roles. We want like reconnaissance to, be a viable role. We want you to be able to be like a medic or like a field commander or like a logistics officer. And then there's the combat. But right now, if you think about it, the combat is just so dominant. Sure, there's these other roles, but they're super niche, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I read this suggestion, I'm like, this is such a Foxhole thing that you can be like a bomb squad guy, right? That's totally the kind of stuff that we want to focus on much more in the future. And like, sometimes I almost feel like we make some mistakes and it's just too easy to throw in like another gun or just throw in another tank or throw in another thing. And I think like this is like a reminder that there's like so many other roles that can be out there. And I think this can be really cool, right? So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was...
It's great. For the people that don't know all about that, we do have an idea of... There's something that is in the works of having different outfits in the game that you're able to wear. They give you small changes in the way you... For instance, some outfit might make you run faster, but you have less, more encumbrance or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
There's always a
trade-off. Yeah.
There's always a trade-off.
And I particularly like this one because it's a little bit. It's kind of like the next step. It's not just doing a variation on what you already have. It actually gives you a different ability, but still keeps the same ideology that you can always pick that up and become a bomb squad member just by using that uniform. We don't have classes in our game. We don't have anything like that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we've been really strict on.
Yeah, they're never gonna have like that kind of rigidity that you choose one and that's it.
Right.
But if you found a bomb squad outfit in the open, then you can use that, and now you became that. And and in this case, you gain a new skill like disarming bombs, but there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Maybe you simply cannot sprint or something.
Also, hypothetically, you could use a bomb squad suit in a really crazy other way that isn't meant to be.
Yeah, like the guy just running in front of like some like entrenched part of the map or something like that.
And I think that's what like the beauty of the game can have is like when we talk about like outfits is the reason we're not talking about like classes, because you could mix and match many different things to create different scenarios. But anyway, we should probably move on.
To actually
features, which I know that everybody is
kind of waiting.
Why are you guys rambling on?
I was just talking about dumb stuff. But
we like talking about
show
dumb
us
stuff.
The features.
Okay? If you're new to this stream, we like to ramble on about really dumb stuff. So have some patience.
I think another thing that I'd also just like to say is we kind of keep it pretty loose. It's not like a really structured. We're just kind of talking about the game, talking about things that are happening.
I mean, to be honest, most of the time, like I'll try to do some like preparations on like the day before, maybe even like the morning, but largely we just walk into this room like 15 minutes before the stream and we just start like rambling. So it's but anyways, features. This kind of first thing I wanted to talk about is something that you guys had been actually asking for from the very beginning, and we aren't able to fulfill it fully to 100%. This request, but it's a step forward, and we said that we're working on this, and like we've said it a million times, and we had anything to kind of like show for, but we have one small step forward now, and that is...
And it's not trenches.
It's not
trenches.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint like a lot of people.
So it's 140 players. So we're going to be in the near future starting to test 140 players on a bunch of servers. As I talked about previously, this is like a problem this is largely like a technical problem, and this is partially hardware, partially on the software side, and we're always looking at the software side. And we also recently looked into the hardware side and were able to come up with a solution to allow us to have just slightly more players. It's not going to stop here. We're still going to continue looking forward, try to increase the player count, and we just want to see what's going to happen. I mean, this is not like a huge step forward, another 20 players, but I think it's still exciting, right? To see these wars getting a little bit larger than they are now.
You know who's gonna be very happy about that?
Who?
All those streamers that have been streaming our game for like the past week and a half. They're gonna have even larger people to play with, which that's gonna be really, really fun.
Also, it should help to alleviate some of the pressure on the server queues and
exactly.
Yeah.
More space for people to play.
Yeah. So I think for now, this is a step forward, and we're gonna continue to look into this. Continue to try to make the wars as large as they can be. Thanks for the patience on this one. I know the pre-alpha players have been asking for it for so long, and we're gonna continue trying our best to make that player cap even larger.
Hey, to put something in perspective, we started, I think, at 60 players.
Yeah, 30 versus 30.
So we did start at 60. Well, I think we started at 64, and then we crept up to 100, and then we crept up to 120, and then we were kind of stuck there for like a long time.
Yeah.
And then now we're 140, and at some point we also have to consider the gameplay implications. Like, it's not just a numbers game. At what point is there too many players for the maps that we have, and for the gameplay experience that is balanced, right? So yeah, expect to see this soon, right?
Very exciting.
Cool.
And there's another thing that we're gonna talk about. I think it's something that people are also been asking for a while. They've been asking me the next one for a while now. Like
this was already brought up more than once in the stream today.
Oh yeah.
So
they've been asking.
And you guys have been asking. You guys have been asking this from the first.
Yeah, we have been asking this for a while.
Yeah. That is.
Guess what? Bayonets.
Bayonets are gonna be in the game. Finally, and this is kind of a funny, like, the backstory behind this is when we first started working on the game, we wanted to really like de-emphasize the melee aspect of the game, just because.
Sorry, chat's going crazy.
Okay, that's really funny. We want to de-emphasize the melee side of the game because we didn't want it to be like a distraction from the range combat, because the game ultimately is about the range combat. We really had all these concerns. Maybe some of them weren't valid, but they were concerns. They were still concerns that it would kind of turn into like a silly kind of like melee fest of people going around with like swords and knives and stuff. And it would kind of change the game a bit. But I think that the game has like matured for long enough. That we know it's not going to turn into that, right? I mean, we even had some people go off and make like a fight club, for crying out loud, and that didn't even change the game, right? So now we're more comfortable with introducing back like a melee weapon, or not back, but introducing like our first melee weapon rather, and seeing how that goes, right? And we think it could be really cool. And slowly we probably want to make like, we talked about this last time, but like with the whole like punching mechanic, that was a stand-in solution.
The karate chop?
Yeah, again, I said this when we last talked about this. It literally appears in our code as karate.
Yeah.
So it was clearly not meant to be.
It was meant to be there I think it was meant to be there for like a month or like a few weeks, and eventually it became a huge part of the game, and somehow it turned into like entire like game mode of like Fight Club.
If we take it off, Moroccan is gonna have a
heart attack. Is gonna be upset about that. But like I think that this is kind of the start of like, okay, we're more comfortable with adding more like melee options to the game, and this will be kind of the first real like test of it, right? So we hope to see this in the game soon, and I think that now that we have the rifle grenade launcher, that also was one of those systems that helped us in making a step towards this feature. Right? So besides that, there is one more thing. It's not really a feature, but something that we had talked about doing, and we haven't forgotten about it. And that is the Umbral Wildwood refresh. So this is not a new map. This is just the old map, but I just need to have
some visual,
some kind of visual here. But I'm going to be making a post shortly on the subreddit, on the Foxhole subreddit, and we want your feedback on how we can make this map better. So we've been slowly kind of like working on new maps, but then in between the new maps, we like to go back and refresh some of the old ones, and the Umbra Wildwood was kind of like the next one up on the list, right, for refresh, because we did a refresh of the Upper Heartlands, and then we did the Endless Shore, and then now we're at the Umbra Wildwood.
And I think Umbra Wildwood has been beaten on enough at this point that we know that it has some serious issues that would like to be resolved, and we want to see what you guys think, like what you guys think would make the map better. And as always, like, you know, if the suggestion is like completely like just make it a mountain map, like that's
not gonna happen.
Like it'd be really helpful, like the theme with the like part forest, part field, like the whole concept. Let's make that map like a better map. Let's make it a more enjoyable map to play on, and that's the general goal with the feedback.
Cool. I guess that's it for features, and
I guess so.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're gonna move on to Q&A. So I want so you guys start asking questions in the chat, and I'll just start taking them at random. So if your question doesn't get answered, sorry, maybe try to ask the question in Discord or in the next dev stream. There's definitely gonna be more now. So we got a question from Lightning. When World Conquest comes, the chat is scrolling. When World Conquest comes back, we'll be seeing map balances and the idea that you get closer to the enemy's main territory, the map would favor the defender. So would there be map balancing in World
So let's
Conquest
first talk about what is World Conquest, because there might be a lot of new players that don't know what it is. World Conquest is a game mode that we have in our game that we introduced some time ago. We tested and it went well, but I think there's still some adjustments that we have to be made. That's why it's not available right now. It is similar to the campaign in which you fight on several maps, but the biggest difference is that you fight at all the maps at the same time. So it's a huge open area in which you can travel from one map to another continuously. Yeah. And that's basically what World Conquest is.
So then secondarily, will there be any kind of map balancing based on...
So if you get closer to
who is winning and who's losing?
Sorry, so it was
map
balancing with respect to...
So let's say, for instance, that you start pushing to a certain direction. Let's say you're pushing towards the Warden side. The Wardens then would start getting a little bit more advantage because they're closer to the defense.
Yeah, so I think that with we tend to not like those kind of mechanics because we think it takes away from the sandbox nature of the game. We think it takes away from like the natural feeling, the natural and organic feeling of the war. And I think when we are ready to talk about this mode again, we're sort of thinking about it in terms of like being able to not worry about stuff like that. Being able to, especially now that we have a lot more players, being able to say, hey, it's okay if one side is losing and you're going to be steamrolled because you're in your last zone and you have like much less players or something of that sort. And I think that's sort of what we would rather have in the game. Like we would rather not, we're not big fans of like a comeback mechanic. You know, of course, there's always like, it's a balance of things, right? We can't make the game in such a way where if you're losing slightly, then then there's no point in fighting anymore, right? But any sort of a comeback mechanic that feels too like artificial, we wouldn't want to do something like that, right? So like we'll never have something in the game where it's like, okay, you're down to your last town hall, so now you get 3 times the resources as an example, right?
I think that the main way that you would want something like that, it would not having a mechanic that is geared toward that, is actually making a game in which you spending time in your region fortifying that will naturally be helpful to you when people come back, when people reach that region. Yeah. So that was the point of staying there and not advancing.
That's right.
Because now you are much more fortified and the guys that are attacking are much more spread. So they naturally have less resources or things like that. So making this the whole game supporting that is more important.
Yeah, and I think that when World Conquest does make a return, our current thought is to make a return in more of like a tournament style thing where you know, it's not meant to support like every single player in the game being able to play the game, right? It's going to start off with, okay, maybe a large number of people are able to join, but when you know, again, if you start conquering most of the world and you're down to like the final zone, right? We don't really want to like artificially come up with some kind of a mechanic that says, well, only like 140 people can play right now in that final zone. Therefore, we need to like go make another zone, kind of like open up so that more people can be involved. Rather, we just say, hey, that's it. You're in the final zone. You know.
So the few people that you have better do your job.
Yeah, you better do your job. And like, you know, there's other avenues. If you can't get into that, there's other avenues to play the game. Like, you know, you can go off and play in the campaign, or you can go off and
or maybe try a different tactic that is not entering the
same area. Or you can, like, so anyways, what to say about that in the future? I think we should move on. I think we kind of talked too much about that.
So I'm going to ask a couple fun questions, and then before we get into one more complicated question. So, Satanic Furby asks, will there be flamethrowers? Question mark.
Flamethrowers?
I think flamethrowers is something that we've looked at previously, and I think our thought on that is that we don't want to do it until we can do it like properly, because I know we've had conversations about that, Matt.
Yeah,
and
I think
it's
actually you once told me make effects for it.
Yeah, because
you said if you had nothing to do, I think we were at a point where like you guys were out of the office. I think you were gone to PAX or something, and there's a couple people here, and it was just like sort of if you run out of tasks, start working on that so that we have it, and then we never really went anywhere with it.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you said was like, hey, like when we do it, it shouldn't be like a fluff thing, right? It should be like fire is a fully fleshed out mechanic.
Yeah, right? I think if we're gonna do flamethrowers, fire needs to be
they can spread or something.
Like fire needs to be its own mechanic.
Yeah.
It can't just be a flamethrower that randomly hurts things without things lighting on fire. It would feel like it's in a sandbox game. It would feel very strange.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty decent answer to that question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a really hard one, and you guys are going to have a really hard time, but I really want you to try and answer with your heart, okay?
Okay.
Devs, wardens or colonials?
Oh.
Do we answer this? Do we answer this question?
I think it's a bit of a trap question, right?
So for me, I have I'm going to cop out and I say I have a really hard time answering because like I spend a lot of time thinking about both.
Don't steal my answer. Don't steal my answer.
But
I'm totally going to cop out of this one.
But if you know, I had to pick one. If I had to pick one, this is going to be really bad.
I have an answer. I would say that in my case, theoretically, if there was a god, the god could not shine in only one side. It would have to shine on all sides.
If I had to choose one, I would probably pick the wardens.
Oh, you're gonna get so much.
Anyway, what about you guys?
The stream is over, guys. Shut it down.
What about you guys? Do you guys have a preference? Just gun to your head. What do you choose?
So I'm gonna cop out, but I will say one thing about that is that fighting for the colonials has a little bit of a significance for me because there was a time when the colonials were losing. They were on like a losing streak, right? Mm-hmm. And like I was playing a lot on the weekends using like a different account, right? Mm-hmm. And I fought on so many losing battles for them, right? Trying to make the finals. I've lost like how many final stands with the colonials? I can't even keep count, right?
I just want to say
I've never lost.
There's a reason that you've lost on the colonials.
and
it's gonna leave.
There's a little bit like I'm interested in both factions just the same amount. I think wardens are like super interesting from like the lore standpoint and everything, but just because I've made so many last stands with the colonials up till basically when town hall was like blown up and we're basically like until the last like bitter end, it's kind of like it's a little bit of like a fondness there, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah,
loyalty.
That wasn't a total cop out answer, right?
No, it wasn't. You said colonials. Mark is a colonial favorite. That's clearly colonial bias.
That's not true. Don't quote Matt on that.
I'm not gonna answer that, but there's a fun fact. It's actually easier to when I'm making the animations. It's actually easier to make sure that the animations work well for the wardens than for the colonial.
Really?
Yeah, because of the way of their coats.
I guess the colonials.
It's a little bit easier.
The little like shawl thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to do the animations for the wardens.
Armed Spartan 117 asks, will there be the ability to customize the appearance of our troopers?
Troopers. Yeah.
So our characters, will there be any kind of character customization? I think this is one that comes up often, but obviously we're going to re-answer questions because the game has launched to a much wider audience. So Mark, I'm going to let you go.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Or HB, you can go whoever.
I'm not answering. Why don't you take this one?
Yeah, I was going to say probably not the way that you're thinking. Probably not just a customization for the sake of customization, like making things look differently. But that ties in with what we mentioned like 10 minutes ago about having different outfits. Each outfit will have a different look. So if you have a different outfit on you, will help, of course, change a little bit of the gameplay, but also customize what you can do. We already have a little bit of that. So for instance, you can put gas masks. And I remember, I think it was the 82DK right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right in the beginning of the game, they was like the whole clan would always wear a gas mask because that was their signature look. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, yes, there will be customizations for the characters, but not just like a slider or anything like that.
We will have female characters as well.
Yes, we will.
That is something that will be in the game. Let me just kind of try to find another question. I'm going to ask another fun one right here. Lec Origins? Will there be trains? Free-built modular trains with artillery and transport potential? I am only asking this because Mark is such a huge fan of this idea.
I think that's such a cool feature. And like, it's probably the #1 thing on our list of cool features that aren't like super critical.
Yeah.
That like have to be the game, that have to be part of the game to make it work, right? So it's but man, like I just think that'd be so cool if you
is it higher than planes?
Well, I think planes is like.
That's actually another question, so why don't we just wrap it in? Trains, planes, and boats and everything.
Planes, trains, and automobiles?
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
So like we've kind of got into like boats, not really boats, but the last stream we talked about the landing APC, which is actually something I totally forgot to show that was in this slide, is the Sketchfab for that. And if you go back to the blog from before, hopefully this loads, but...
Anyway,
we've got into sort of like touching upon the water or like the sea warfare aspect of the game. Well, this laptop is really terrible performance, but this is going to be super slow. But but essentially, we've kind of gotten to that point, and in terms of air, I think that's a bit far away. We don't have any near-term plans for that, but we have a lot of people that are pushing for that. Like I'm
a cheerleader.
Not just like outside of our Clapfoot, but also inside of Clapfoot. There's a lot of people who.
So there's a lot of people who want that. I think that.
It's feasible, but it's far away. I think that trains a little bit more realistic.
I think trains are more realistic. Yeah. I think it's also like we feel like there's still a lot of like balancing and sort of like gameplay type of issues that we want to deal with first, and just sort of going out in the left field and putting in planes is just gonna add to the complication. It's almost like, why add something more like that just because it's cool?
Well,
without fixing some of the fundamental issues of the game. I think it's more important to like make sure the fundamentals are more solid before we add in yet another thing.
And we never add anything on the game just for the sake of adding. Every time that we add something, we think there's
the goal of the
exactly.
Game,
there's an implication on the game that we actually consider beforehand.
That's right.
Too much like we were talking with the flamethrower earlier. We could have just thrown in a random flamethrower that did some damage over time or something. But
I mean, I think like once in a while, if something is not really going to
break the game
or fundamentally change it, but it's just kind of like a variety thing, and we think it's time to introduce something neat, we'll add in stuff like that, right? But something huge like planes, I think we need to sit down and think long and hard about how that's going to affect the core of the game before we go off and do something like that, right?
So to answer the question finally, yes, we are very excited of the possibility of having trains. Maybe maybe not right now.
Crushfield asks, any upcoming quality of life changes that we can look forward to?
Yeah,
I think that's a great question.
Yeah. Can I
Sure.
There's one thing that we want to look. That I know that we want to look. It's in the near future. We don't know exactly when it's gonna come or when we're gonna have time to look at it. But for instance, I know that we want to take a look into the chat system. We want to maybe see if we can improve it a little bit. We know that there are some issues with it. We know there's like some limitations as well that we want to improve there.
I know voice chat is something.
Voice chat, yeah.
That you have no control over, which I think.
I think we're gonna. I think we're already working on some sort of like volume controls on the voice chat.
Yeah.
I think that like I think probably the biggest kind of like the biggest weak point that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later is definitely improvements in the squad system.
Yeah.
And in like the communication tools. It's just that's a hard feature, right? So
and it's a little bit too crude as it is for what we want.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So it's not gonna be like easy to make that better, because even though it's kind of funny because something like improving the squad system is actually a lot harder than something like adding a new vehicle.
Oh yeah.
Right, because
for sure.
adding a new vehicle, we have a lot of systems in place, and it's work. It's definitely a lot of work, but that's all it is. It's kind of work, right? But for something like improving the squad system, there's a lot of corner cases. There's a lot of things we have to think about with regards to like get that working with like 120, now 140 players.
And there's another side. There's not just the technical as well. There's gameplay implications. Yeah. Like if you expand the squad system, so are there things locked behind it that we don't know,
yeah.
or how the new players deal with that and things like that, and how does it? So it's for instance a very good example of something that we know we will work on and then we are working on, but it reflects on all the game, like so many aspects, the technical aspect, on the systems, like if it requires more of a system, then some people won't be able to play because their computers won't be able to handle anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to take that into consideration, and also what happens to the in-game players, like what's the gameplay changes and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to say though that now that we are in like early access, we are gonna work slightly more on these more like quality of life features, more so, and it's not going to be our entire focus, of course, right? But it's going to be more so than we used to, right? So
because pre-alpha was pre-alpha. That's getting features working.
Let's get the basic there.
Getting that vertical slice of everything in the game. So now we're just beyond that. So. Cool. One question about Grave the Hounds, which I feel like is worth answering because I don't know if it's clear yet based on what we were showing right here, is will there be ferries or barges to transport vehicles in the new map?
That's something that we'll probably have more to say about in a couple of weeks. Nothing yet to talk about on the stream, unfortunately.
It's definitely a difficult problem that we're aware of with the new map. This has come up a few times, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. Do we have any plans to balance maps that are like 2 versus 30, or like 10 versus 60?
To balance maps that are
like way lopsided.
Oh right, yeah. So that's been a long time problem, and at one point we did have mechanisms for that for the pre-alpha players. As you know, at one point we did have some like balancing issues, and we did put in some restrictions that I believe was actually restricted people from joining in. Right? So and what we actually found, surprisingly enough, is that actually had like an adverse effect, which was, you wouldn't think of it, but what ended up happening is because the winning side couldn't really join, then slowly the overall number of players couldn't rise, right? And because of that, players would end up not joining that server anymore. And then because of that, that was a detriment to actually like both sides, right? Because the losing side couldn't really get any more bodies into the game either, because people would take a look at it and go, I don't really want to join that game. There's only like so many players. And it just basically what it meant is that both sides would just keep on getting lower rather than it being like the losing side would be bounced up and they would both rise. And in the end, it actually was a little bit of like a detriment. And with regards to like, besides that problem, we have put some thought into some possibilities of like bouncing that, you know, I probably don't want to talk too much about it right now, but we definitely had some long kind of we've thought about that for like a while, and there are some ideas that are cooking for that, but we probably recently, with all the players coming in, we haven't given it as much thought anymore, but maybe soon we need to start thinking about that again, right? So
I'm going to take one last question, which is kind of a fun one. How about naming vehicles or buildings? So you could designate a storage box for fuel or something like that, or a vehicle specifically for XYZ. So basically putting labels on objects that players build.
We did mention something like that, like, wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing this a similar suggestion or something like that, having labels. And we said it was, it's a pretty good idea.
It's a pretty good idea.
It's we are always excited to make sure that like you guys have more tools to work with. We did mention at the same time something about perhaps in the future having some customization for what you put in your as a stamp or something like that on the boxes or on the trucks and things like that as well, with the names or something like that. But it is especially just naming it's totally doable.
I think that would really help, from my experience with the game, with just like organizing, logistics crews, organizing trucks for specific purposes, just knowing what the intended purpose of the thing was that the person made it for. I think intention could make like a huge difference in sort of like overall like logistics. That's my feeling, but I think it's a neat idea. I don't know if it's anything we've talked about before though, really, other than in passing.
I think we've,
But I think that comes back to like the idea that we need to sort of like improve communication tools in general.
Yeah.
So that is gonna bring us to the end of the stream. Again, if your question didn't get answered, please ask it again next week. Ask in Discord. Ask in the Steam forums, and we'll try to get to it as much as we can. Obviously, there's literally like hundreds of questions coming at the chat, so if I missed something really important, I apologize. But Mark has one last thing he wants to kind of say before. A couple things before whatever.
There is definitely one thing that we kind of missed earlier, and that's with the streamers, right?
I wanted to
streamers have been so helpful in getting the word out there of Foxhole, and I just want to say thanks to, I don't know if any of them are actually watching right now, but
I know that we have some people hosting us right now, which is fantastic.
I think it's just been like in some of the cases, you guys literally been playing the game almost like every single day, and that's just been like
that helps so much with like getting the word out of what the game and explaining what the game is before people buy it.
Absolutely,
it's so fucking.
And I just
great.
I guess we just kind of missed it there when we were talking about the community highlights, right? And we originally wanted to actually have a list and like go through, and we did have a couple people in mind, but we decided not to because we didn't want to miss anyone because there's just so many of you. So just want to
thank you so much for like all the help and all, and we're glad to see that it's just like it's a confirmation that the game at least has some value when you see that somebody is enjoying it enough that he can play for days after days.
It's kind of funny because we always said before, well, Foxhole is not really like a streamable game, but who cares, right?
Exactly.
And it turns out that there are some pretty interesting moments that can happen on the stream.
I am completely surprised by the streamability of the game based on my own thoughts. Honestly, there's one thing that I wanted to mention that we talk about pretty much every stream, but I kind of want to give it a shout as the Foxhole community stream.
Yes.
Thank you. They do the stream on the week that we are not streaming. They do
next week.
So next week is it on Tuesdays?
Thursday.
It's on Thursday nights.
So Thursday nights they do a stream that just kind of talks about things that have been happening over the last week. It's totally run by the community. Follow the link that I just put in the chat. It's twitch.tv/foxholecommunity.
Can I also say another thank you?
Yeah, go nuts.
Because we never said like. Along with the streams, you also have some YouTubers that keep making videos.
Yes, like I Saw Bear.
I Saw Bear, goddamn, he keeps, and Crazy Flying Chicken keeps making videos. So these people, both streamers and YouTubers, it's very rewarding for us see them grow as well with the community and getting more members and viewers with us. It's fantastic.
I can't remember who they were, but I actually watched a really big partnered streamer host another smaller streamer who was streaming Foxhole, and it was like this
cool.
moment, and then he just had this huge follow through. It was great. It was a really cool thing.
Yeah, so thank you all. And the
last
thing,
do you wanna?
Yes, we're gonna be at PAX in the end of this month, right? Oh,
the beginning of next month, technically.
I guess so, because we arrived there a little bit earlier. We're gonna be there all the days. We're gonna have a booth there.
It's a small booth.
Small booth.
It's gonna be cozy.
But if you are in the region, it's gonna be Seattle, right?
Yes.
We're in Seattle in September 1st to 3rd. Is that it?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. We'll post more details.
Furthermore, HB is gonna be there.
Yeah, you guys can finally meet HB in person.
Okay.
Alright.
We're gonna be there. We're not gonna be at Gamescom. I just glanced there. We're not gonna be at Gamescom, but we're gonna be at PAX West in about a month.
Cool.
A little bit less than that. Hope to see you guys there if you guys
We
there.
often go to PAX.
We go to almost all PAX.
I think we go to almost all of them.
Missed an American PAX.
Yeah.
No, we go south, east, and west.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Fantastic. All right, guys, this is going to be the stream. Thank you so much for all your questions, all your feedback, and hanging out and getting excited and getting not excited and everything that you guys do. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Again, if you have any questions, any feedback, bugs, whatever, visit our Steam community, our Discord, our Reddit, all that stuff. We see it, we respond to it, we look at it. See you guys.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.